Hey, Wellmong World Entertainment, and episode 7 of Rings of Disaster is here. You know, the first part of the 2-episode big battle. And holy hell, is the battle worthless. For what you see of it, which is next to nothing. It's mainly just talking, things getting revealed that we've already known, and just more absolute bastardization of Tolkien's work. I mean, this thing gets really ridiculous. Now, keep in mind, they said since season 1 that none other than Galadriel's husband, Celeborn, is dead. And then there was rumours that he may show up in this. Well, there's still no signs of him, and that might play something a little interesting that happens in this episode, which we will obviously get to. Now, the Siege of Eregion is hilarious because Sauron wasn't in Eregion at the time. No, he led the charge on there. Then he captured Celebrimbor and forced them into doing things, and then killed him and paraded his body as a banner. He literally impaled him and carried him as a banner. That's not the case in this. And this episode starts off with Celebrimbor just sitting at the window having a cup of joe, looking out at the lovely day, while the city is actually getting destroyed. And it's funny because he now has the 9 rings almost made. He's still kind of connecting one and still has to do a bit of file work and stuff. It's the first indication we get of how much time has passed. How? Because he tells us, oh, you know, I've been working on these for the past 2 weeks. What's another couple of days? You're like, wait, this city has been under siege for 2 weeks and the orcs haven't advanced or anything. Out of everything they've managed to hit in this city, they keep missing the gigantic tower in the middle. Yeah, but as much as a reference to time passing is put in this episode with Celebrimbor, and there is a bit more which I'll get to, we still have the teleportation of everyone else because Elrond all of a sudden ends up in Khazad-dûm and back on the battlefield in no time. People get from everywhere else in the world to Eregion in no time. And I have to say, Don Lemonis is in this here and there sporadically. Where the hell is Isildur and what's her head? I've been watching this show, I've been reviewing this show. For the life of me, I cannot remember where those two were. I cannot remember. And there's no signs of them in this. There's no Númenóreans in this one. There's no Harfoots, no Gandalf, none of that. It's literally orcs and Eregion and dwarves, which it's just so stupid what happens. Like truly stupid. They try and give. Do you remember the Asian elf, the woman who ran with? Like she was one of the Expendables. She's back. I don't even remember what happened to her in the other episode, but she's back in this one. And they try and give her this big emotional hero send-off. And it's like, we don't even know this character's name. And she said like 4 lines, if even that. Oh, why are we giving her this big send-off? But it's funny. So everything with Celebrimbor and Sauron is basically, he has his cup of joe, he sits down, he picks up the hammer, and he notices that there's a ruby missing on the hammer. So he goes onto the floor to find it. And he sees this mouse, and the mouse runs halfway across the floor, kind of stands up, and then continues its journey. He's a hello, Mr. Mouse. Sauron comes in and goes, what's the master forger doing on the floor? And he's like, oh, the hammer lost. And he picks up the hammer, and all of a sudden all the jewels are there, because it's part of the manipulation. And he realizes then, and he sees his reflection, and his reflection is how things actually are. And he sees that for a second. He's like, wait a minute, something's not right. So he's starting to twig it. But later on, where this is where the other time kind of happens, is he notices the mouse again while he's doing file work on the rings. And he notices the mouse again, and it does the exact same thing. It runs to the same spot, does the little stand-up thing, and runs. And he notices this a few times. So he gets a marker and he marks a candle. And later on, like I'm skipping over half the episode just to get around all this stuff. Later on, Sauron comes in, he realizes, like, Celebrimbor realizes, you know, something's not right here. And he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, the embers in the fire, you know, never have to be replenished. They never go down. He goes, watch for the mouse. So he sees the mouse. And he does it, and Sauron's like, yeah, very charming. He goes, no, you don't understand. It's repeating. It's happening over and over. And he goes, time doesn't seem to be moving. He picks up the candle, shows him, he goes, because it hasn't gone down past this mark in the past 2 hours or something. So that's your real kind of indication of how much time is passing with him. Everyone else is transporting from here to there. And this is when it kind of all starts falling apart, and he realizes that it is Sauron and so he tries to throw the hammer at him. Sauron moves, it smashes the window, and he can hear all the screams, and he walks outside and sees the city coming apart. And then he runs outside and immediately gets blown up. Now, he's not dead, but he gets blown up the second he goes outside. The blonde bitch, whatever the hell she was called, the apprentice, they're all on the battlements. This before this as well. And Sauron comes out and says like, oh, Celebrimbor, because they're saying, hey, what's his orders? Because like we need to fight back against the orcs, and he's like, oh, he doesn't want to fight back. And they're like, what? He goes, he thinks the river's enough, but we're going to disobey his orders. I'm taking charge, and we're going to attack. And they're like, grand. And then he realizes, he sees them turning the catapults the other way, and he looks up the mountain. He goes, prepare for ground invasion. They're like, what do you mean ground invasion? And they fire the catapults and hit the mountain, and half the mountain falls, and they block the river, which instantly dries, at least for the orcs, because later on when the horses and the elves go through it, they seem to sink a bit. But the orcs are able to seem to run across it with no problem, even to the point they're bringing big equipment across. The big equipment thing is this yoke that pierces into the wall, and you release it and it kind of tries to pull out the wall to weaken it. There's only one of them, and that will be important. There's only one. We've even seen that there's only one. They even made sure to specifically say, we need to destroy that machine. Oh, by the way, they're saying loose for the arrows. You know, release your arrows. That's the word, is loose. They say that, and it comes up in Elvish. Or they're meant to be saying it in Elvish, and it highlights what they're saying. Do you know what the word loose is, even in Elvish? It's loose. We've even seen that in the Lord of the Rings. That's the universal word for release your arrows, is loose. So I thought that was stupid. The dwarfs are now taking the side of Durin the Fort. They all come down, and Dis and Durin the Fort are standing there ready to take them on. They put down their weapons and go, no, your father's gone nuts, we're joining you, and all this crap. And then he says, by the way, there's an elven bloke here to see you, and he goes up, and it's Elrond, and Elrond is basically saying, we need your help, we need your army to show up for a thing to help out against the Dara's army. And he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. And they have a talk, and it's useless. Then Gil-galad in this episode is actually not under a tree. He's actually on the battlefield wearing Vis. And yeah, it's like, what the hell is that? Is that meant to be armor? Why does it look plastic, and why does it look like it's bending with your body? All the elven armor looks like this, by the way, which you can see in the images when you see Elrond and stuff. Looks terrible. They go to charge at the orcs, and as they're charging in the worst formation, it's a big triangle formation, which is like, that's the most stupidest formation I've ever seen for a battle charge. All the orcs are standing there, as in, they're like going, yeah, bring it. And it's like, what? And then they just wheel out a cart and open it up, and it's Galadriel in it, and they stop their charge. And you're like, oh, you're literally going to not go to war with these for one person. Which we then get a meeting. Now, remember this, Gil-galad is here, but he's not in this meeting with Adar, Galadriel, who's chained up behind him with Fodder of the Year orc holding a knife to her throat, and Elrond, and Elrond's right-hand man. It's like, why are you negotiating with Elrond when the king is there? Don't know. But he's like talking, he's like, I want the ring, show me the ring, we need it to stop Sauron. Elrond's like, you think I'd be stupid enough to bring it here? He's like, right, blah, 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 and then it's, if you don't surrender and do whatever we want, we'll kill Galadriel. You guys will be wiped out because you're not as smart as us in formations and all this crap. And Elrond is like, well, if that's how it'll have to be, I'll see you on the battlefield when my blade is at your throat. And he's like, and he goes, any chance I can say bye to Galadriel if this is my last time to see her? And he goes, Now, when Elrond stands up, you can see, since he's been sitting there the whole time, this thing on his shoulder. You can see it right there. Well, he stands up and we're watching him take this off. By the way, tons of conversations and things happen with people right there that should be able to hear it and seem to not. But he takes this thing off. He is standing face to face with Adar. And I mean face to face. You know, they're so close they can smell each other's breath. And he asks, can I say goodbye to Gladriel? And Adar looks the Father of the Year orc behind him. So now he's turned his back to Elrond. And that orc goes, it's okay, he has no weapons. It's like, you waited till he's in your face before you decided to see if he had weapons. Right. And he goes over and brace yourselves, Tolkien fans, because he kisses Galadriel. Yep, they lock lips. He locks lips with his future mother-in-law. Yay. But he doesn't just kiss her, because he gives her that thing that was on his shoulder that no one notices no longer there. To which she uses to obviously open her cuffs and escape. And no orc can spot her. She's like puts on their clothes, walking. None of them can spot the big long strand of blonde hair sticking out of the bloody thing. But more so, orcs can smell elves and humans and people that aren't orcs. And yet none of them seem to be able to pick up on this. Yeah, it's so stupid. As for the battle, the battle is nothing. It's literally just watching a half dozen people run at walls. A couple of orcs up on the... Oh, when you see them up on the walls fighting the elves. And there's only like 5 elves versus 5 orcs. And they're all spaced out. Like, could they not afford extras? There's this shot from above going around it. And you're seeing it. If you watch them fight, oh my god. It's literally people who are missing by miles with their swings. And then doing that kind of slow it down before you get close because you're not sure if you can stop, and it's very noticeable. You're like, oh god. The biggest part of the battle is they send in, Adar sends in the big troll who no one seems to be able to kill until they're easily able to kill it. But this is the thing. Now remember I said this machine is the only thing they have out there to pull the wall down. The Asian elf gets her big send-off because she's going to take the shot to destroy this thing. And they run and Elrond jumps down. He goes, take the shot. And they turn around and she's nowhere near them. She's standing over a bit of a way. And all of a sudden an arrow hits her. And then 5 more arrows hit her from every direction. It's like, how did she get hit from every direction? But she pulls one out, lights it on fire, takes the shot, and it's all in slow motion. You're hearing this heartfelt music. She takes the shot and it lands right in the bucket and it blows that thing up. And then she gets shot again and dies. And you're like, oh no, it's, what's her name? It's like, why are we supposed to have feelings for this character? We've seen her twice now and she's had like 4 lines. Yeah. Oh yeah. When Elrond, or not Elrond, when Celebrimborn breaks out of the tower and he runs and he's trying to get the guards to seize Sauron. And they don't believe him because Sauron has been manipulated them as well, thinking, oh yeah, he's lost his mind. Blonde head apprentice bitch, whatever her name is, goes to touch, like take the arm of Celebrimborn, and he goes, release me. And as he turns around, Sauron pretty much uses the force and makes her fall off the wall down to the orcs, and the orcs kill her. Oh no, Blondie's dead. Yeah, oh no, I'm devastated. And then Don Lemonis is just shooting arrows. Gladriel escapes. She gets in, but with the help of Don Lemonis, she gets into the city, collects the rings off Celebrimborn, who was chained up, and rather than putting the chain in this big cutting press thing, he cuts his finger off. His thumb, to be exact. It's like, then you just stick the chain in there, jackass. But he meets Gladriel. She convinces them Sauron is there. Like, all the troops, they go on his side then. She wants to face Sauron. He goes, no, you need to take the rings, bugger off. So she does. He goes up with the guards. This way we get the scene of all the guards around him with the swords. And he goes, you don't think you're the only one I used my powers on? And he uses the force again and makes them all kill themselves. And he kills one other. And the episode basically ends with the dwarfs aren't coming because as they're about to lead the armies out of Khazad-dûm after Durin the Fourth gives this big speech to like 20 people until he turns around and sees his massive people. The mining dwarf bloke comes up covered in blood saying your dad's gone nuts, he's turned this on, and he's going to dig and release that foul beast. How do they know it's a beast? How do they even know what's down there? Don't know, but all of a sudden they know there's a beast. And he's like, what about Elrond? He's like, well, if you go take the army to there mightn't be a Khazad-dûm when you come back, even though it's going to take another something like 4,000 years for the Balrog to actually wake up, but okay. So they don't go. Elrond is literally just lying on the battlefield with the sun coming up going, he's going to come, he's going to come, he's going to come, while the like 10 elves that are left go charging at the orcs that are now being led by Adar on the battlefield. Oh yeah, and Elrond during that negotiation talk kind of put in the idea into the orcs' heads that, oh, he doesn't care about you. So Father of the Year orc doesn't go charging with them. Whatever. Don Lemonis fights and it may be dead. He does get stabbed with an arrow by Adar. Adar just takes an arrow, catches it, stabs him. He takes out another arrow, stabs Adar. Then Adar stabs him with his sword and he drops it. It's like, is he dead? Who cares really, but we don't know. And it ends with him picking up Elrond. Elrond dropping in like, oh, we're done. And yes, Elrond did have the ring. Not just did he have it, he was wearing it around his neck because now Adar's holding it. But here's the thing, people. The episode ends, and I'm not bullshitting you here, and I've even got the clip to prove it to you. The episode goes to its credits and plays an orc metal song. No, I'm not messing. In fact, I'll play it right now. Yep, there you go. Orc metal song. This episode is horrendous. By the way, I paused this episode to feed my cat. My cat was going nuts at me, so I had to feed him. And I thought, oh, this thing, there must only be about 10 minutes left of this. I was only 30 something minutes into the episode. I think it was 38 minutes in. I thought I was literally almost a full hour in. And I was only just over halfway. I was like, oh my Christ. It's so bad. And next week's episode, like, what's the next battle gonna be? The battle's practically over. I don't know. Oh, again, I said keep in mind that the machine that got blown up was key. Yeah, because later, after she blows it up, the troll is using it to ram the wall. And it's still there and fully intact. And then when they kill him, the orcs come up and use it. It's like you blew that thing up and you showed that there was only one of them. Yeah, they forgot themselves. But there's your review, and thank Christ there's only one episode of this crap left, which is next week. I have tons of other videos ready to go, and forgot that this shit was on, so I had to stop to do this. Good Christ. But anyway, that's the review for episode 7 of this disaster. Please let it end next week. It'll probably end on a whimper, and God, can't cancel it, just cancel it. But anyway, with that, I will leave it there for this one. So like, share, subscribe. Help the channel grow, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.